The whispering walls of Blackwood Manor. Okay, so this happened a few years back, but I still get chills thinking about it. I'm a freelance photographer, and I got a gig shooting the interior of Blackwood Manor. It's this old, abandoned place about an hour outside of town. The realtor wanted some photos for a potential buyer, someone who was into restoring old houses. I usually avoid these kinds of jobs, but the money was good, and I was assured the place was safe enough to walk around in. I arrived on a Tuesday morning. The place looked exactly like you'd expect: overgrown ivy, crumbling stone, and windows that stared out like empty eyes. The realtor, a nervous guy named Mr. Henderson, met me at the gate. He fumbled with the lock for a good 5 minutes before we finally got inside. "Place hasn't been touched in decades," he said, his voice echoing in the vast, empty hallway. "The Blackwood family just up and left one day. Never came back." I shrugged, trying to act professional. "Well, let's get started." The inside was worse than the outside. Dust lay thick on everything, and the air smelled like mildew and decay. As I moved from room to room, taking photos, I started to notice something weird. A faint whispering sound. At first, I thought it was just the wind whistling through the broken windows, but it seemed to be coming from inside the walls. I mentioned it to Mr. Henderson, but he just laughed nervously. "Old houses make all sorts of noises," he said. "Don't worry about it." But I was worried. The whispering grew louder as I went deeper into the house. It was like a chorus of voices, too low to make out any specific words, but definitely there. In the library, surrounded by shelves of decaying books, the whispering was almost deafening. I felt a cold spot on the back of my neck, and the hairs on my arms stood on end. I took a few quick photos and decided to move on. As I turned to leave, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. A shadow, flickering in the periphery. I spun around, but there was nothing there. "Mr. Henderson?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. "Yes?" he replied, his voice sounding distant. "Did you see that?" "See what?" "A shadow. In the library." He hesitated. "Probably just your imagination," he said finally. "This place can play tricks on you." I didn't like his answer. I didn't like this place at all. We moved upstairs, and the whispering followed us. It was constant now, a low, insistent drone that seemed to vibrate in my bones. In one of the bedrooms, I found a child's rocking horse, covered in dust. It was facing the wall, and as I got closer, I noticed something carved into the wood. A series of strange symbols. I took a photo of the symbols, feeling a growing sense of unease. Mr. Henderson was getting more and more agitated. He kept glancing over his shoulder and his hands were shaking. "Let's just finish up here," he said, his voice tight. "I want to get out of this place." I agreed. We went down to the basement, which was even creepier than the rest of the house. It was damp and dark, and the air was thick with the smell of mold. The whispering was at its loudest here, a cacophony of voices that seemed to be coming from all directions. In the center of the basement, there was a well. It was covered with a rusty metal grate, but I could see the dark water shimmering below. As I stared into the well, I heard a distinct voice, clear as a bell, whisper my name. I recoiled, stumbling backward. "Did you hear that?" I gasped, grabbing Mr. Henderson's arm. He looked at me, his eyes wide with terror. "We have to go," he said. "Now!" We ran out of the basement and back up the stairs, not stopping until we were outside the house. As we stood there, gasping for breath, I looked back at Blackwood Manor. The windows seemed to be watching us, and the whispering was still audible, even from the yard. I never went back to Blackwood Manor. I sent the photos to the realtor, collected my check, and tried to forget the whole thing. But I couldn't. The whispering stayed with me, a constant reminder of the horrors I had witnessed. A few weeks later, I did some research on the Blackwood family. I found out that they had a dark history. There were rumors of occult practices, strange rituals, and a series of unexplained deaths. The symbols I had photographed on the rocking horse were ancient runes, used in summoning rituals. And the well in the basement? It was said to be a gateway to something else. I don't know what happened to the Blackwood family or what they were trying to summon. But I do know one thing. Some places are better left undisturbed, and Blackwood Manor is definitely one of them. So, yeah, that's my story. Sleep tight.